A Japanese man wakes up in a stark white room. The walls stretch endlessly with no doors, windows, or ceiling to give him a clue about where he is. His brightly colored pajamas contrast sharply with the sterile surroundings, amplifying his confusion as he explores the room. He notices something strange sticking out of one wall, a protrusion disturbingly shaped like a male member. Tentatively he pokes at it, his curiosity overcoming his unease. When he presses the tip, the room comes alive. Hundreds of giggling baby angels burst forth from the walls and floor, their laughter echoing eerily. They linger for only a moment, before retreating back into the surfaces, leaving behind their own peculiar protrusions, now scattered across the walls and floor. The man freezes, overwhelmed by the surreal sight. This strange moment marks the beginning of what he later realizes is the learning phase. Sniffing the finger he used to press the button, a wave of panic overtakes him. He screams for help, calling out to anyone who might hear, but the silence that follows is deafening. Resigned, he decides to experiment with the protrusions, pressing one after another to see what happens. Each press summons a random object, a tiny toothbrush, a hefty vase, and even a pile of chopsticks. Intrigued, he notices that pressing the same button repeatedly produces the same object, and he quickly builds a small mountain of chopsticks. His initial amusement fades when a button he presses sends a small cart careening out of the wall, slamming painfully into his legs. His curses are cut short when the next button spawns an even stranger item, a large, fleshy butt that appears only to pass gas in his face. Horrified yet oddly determined, the man continues pressing buttons, amassing a bizarre collection of items that now clutter the once empty room. Desperation turns to delight when a ball he throws at the wall accidentally hits a button, rewarding him with a tray of sushi. Hunger pangs gnawing at his stomach, he eagerly dives into the sushi, but quickly realizes something's missing. Soy sauce, he pleads aloud to his invisible captors for the condiment, his voice cracking with frustration. Show you, receiving no response. He frantically presses buttons in search of the elusive sauce, only to end up surrounded by more sushi than he can eat. Defeated, he resigns himself to eating the sushi plain, savoring its surprisingly delicious taste. Just as he finished the last piece, he presses the sushi button again, only for a bottle of soy sauce to finally appear. His frustration boils over, and he angrily shoves the bottle aside, turning to a new button. He's handed a pair of retro 3D glasses. Curious, he slips them on and his surroundings shift. Through the lenses he sees a baby angel, pointing directly at one of the protrusions. Hope surges in his chest. As he thinks he's finally found a clue to escape, he presses the button indicated by the angel, but instead of answers he triggers a countdown. A giant butt descends from the ceiling, releasing a noxious cloud directly over him. His brief optimism shatters as he coughs and gags. In the aftermath, hours pass, marked by a new discovery. Manga volumes. By pressing another button, he receives volumes 1 through 5 of an engaging story. Hungry for more, he presses the button for the 6th volume, only to be handed the 7th. Annoyed but determined, he tries different buttons, receiving the 8th and 9th volumes, but still no 6. His persistence finally pays off when a random button reveals a hidden section of the wall. Behind it lies a door. Elation sweeps over him as he rushes to the exit, but in his excitement, he loses track of which button triggered the discovery. He begins frantically pressing buttons again, summoning random items and events. An African tribesman sprints across the room, startling him, while another button douses him with water from above. After several failed attempts, he finds the right button, and the door reappears. As he bolts for the door, it slams shut just as he reaches it. Realizing the door only stays open as long as the button tip remains pressed, he begins brainstorming ways to keep it down. His first attempt is a runner's pose, holding the button with his foot while trying to sprint for the exit. He fails miserably. Next, he uses a fly swatter to press the button from a distance, hoping to gain precious seconds. But this too falls short. Desperate, he experiments with a jumping rope to pull the tip down, and even directs air from a fan at it. But none of these strategies work. Determined to find a solution, he retrieves the small cart, thinking he can push it toward the door. After pressing the button, after several failed attempts, he accepts the chaotic cart is too unwieldy to control. Exhausted and out of ideas, he slumps to the floor, the absurdity of his situation sinking in. Faced with the challenge of keeping the button tipped down, the man begins experimenting with weights. He places the massive vase atop the button, but to his dismay the resilient button pushes back up. Defying his efforts, frustrated but undeterred, he realizes the vase needs to be heavier. His first attempt is to fill it with water, but no matter how hard he tries to redirect the flow from the water button, the liquid stubbornly pours only on him, leaving the vase bone dry. Next he decides to fill the vase with sushi, hoping the accumulated weight will do the trick. At first his plan seems promising, but the vase becomes so heavy that he struggles to lift it, adding to his woes. The vase's neck is too narrow for his hand to fit, forcing him to painstakingly remove pieces of sushi, one by one with chopsticks. This slow and maddening process nearly drives him to the brink, but eventually, he reduces the weight enough to lift the vase, barely. As he triumphantly carries the vase toward the buttons, a new problem emerges. He forgets which button controls the door. He places the vase on the floor and begins testing buttons again. On his first try, the African tribesman bursts out of the wall, accidentally colliding with the vase and shattering it into pieces. The man snaps, shouting at the ceiling, as though his captors might hear his frustration. In a frenzy, he starts covering the button in sushi, only to watch in disbelief as the little member tip stubbornly pops up through the rice. He escalates his efforts by attempting to tape the button down, layering it with tape, and even reinforcing it with a steel plate, but nothing works. Exhausted and aching from repeated slams by the door every time it closes on him, the man resorts to painkillers and a short nap to recover his strength. When he wakes, he decides to press a button for water to brush his teeth. To his surprise, the wrong button activates, and instead of water, a rope descends from the ceiling. The sight of the rope lifts his spirits. Inspired, he devises a daring new plan. He will use the rope to swing across the room, press the button to open the door, and make it through before it closes. His first swing is exhilarating, but when he reaches the hidden door, he discovers it's locked. Forced to retreat, he swings back into the room, but not without the door slamming painfully into his back. Irritated, he kicks the wall in frustration, inadvertently triggering another button. This time a key floats into view, suspended in the middle of the room. Like the door, the key vanishes as soon as the button resets. The man now faces a dual challenge. He must find a way to keep the button pressed long enough to grab the key and hold the door open first. He needs to relocate the key's button, which he lost track of during his tantrum. Recalling where his foot landed, he carefully presses one button, only to be met with a dog barking ferociously as it leaps from the wall. Annoyed but persistent, he presses another button, only for a second dog to appear on his third try. Luck strikes, he finds the key's button again. Determined not to lose it this time, he grabs a piece of sushi and marks the spot, only for the button to reset. As soon as he presses it again, the dog reappears, mocking his efforts. Frustration mounts, but the man regains focus. He notices the rope and combines it with a new tool, a plunger he retrieved earlier from one of the buttons. Swinging across the room, he uses the plunger to push himself further, reaching buttons he couldn't before. After a few failed attempts, his coordination improves, and his plan begins to work. Swinging and pushing with precision, he presses the key button, grabs the key midair and swings back to the door button. Timing his movements perfectly, he races to the door just as it opens, and inserts the key into the lock. The sense of victory is fleeting. As he turns the key, the door doesn't budge. It has a secondary lock at the top, requiring a 3-number combination. Overwhelmed, the man retreats to the room, the door slamming into his back once more. In a fit of rage, he throws the plunger at the opposite wall, accidentally activating another button. Out comes the African tribesman once again, but this time the man notices something crucial. The tribesman has 3 numbers painted on his forehead. A spark of hope reignites as the man pieces together the puzzle. The numbers on the tribesman must be the combination for the lock. With renewed determination, he repeats his rope swinging routine to input the numbers one by one. Each swing is a test of his endurance, but he powers through. By the time he inputs the final number, he's drenched in sweat, but the lock clicks open. With a burst of energy, he pushes the door open, only to find another obstacle, a narrow hallway, where the wall behind him begins to close. Pushing harder, he squeezes through the shrinking space and stumbles into the next room. gasping for air as the door seals shut behind him. There isn't enough room to fully open the door, let alone escape. Defeated, he collapses to the floor, tears streaming down his face. He remembers the chaotic fun he had with the buttons, the endless objects, the absurdity, the fleeting joy. Though trapped, back then, he had space to move objects to entertain him, and hope to experiment. Now, he feels the crushing weight of regret for not appreciating what he had. A faint breeze brushes against his cheek, snapping him out of his despair. His attention turns to the left wall, where he discovers a subtle crack. Hope rekindled, he pushes against the panel, revealing a hidden passage. Without hesitation, he dives into the opening, leaving the claustrophobic trap behind. The passage leads him to a surreal, endless hallway floating in a pitch-black void. The air feels heavy, time distorted, as though each step takes him further into the unknown. He runs and runs, the darkness around him unchanging. When he finally reaches the next room, his hair has grown long, and the once vibrant colors of his pajamas have faded to muted, lifeless tones. This new room is eerily empty, but something feels different. Instead of baby angels, adult angels emerge from the walls. Their forms are majestic yet fleeting, disappearing back into the surfaces, leaving behind their member-like buttons. The man realizes he has entered a new stage practice. Meanwhile, far away in Mexico, tension brews in Antonio's family. His father, the wrestler Escargot Man, has grown withdrawn, far from his usual boisterous self. Antonio's mother attributes it to his upcoming match against a younger opponent, but the grandfather insists that experience outweighs youth. In the ring, Escargot Man's daughter, Sister Karen, picks him up in her truck and drives him to the wrestling arena. His preparation is meticulous, involving prayer to the Virgin Mary and the slow ritual of changing into his costume. At school, Antonio faces relentless bullying from classmates who mock him for supporting his father. Hahal nunca ha sido fuerte fidget. They call Escargot Man a washed-up loser, but Antonio remains steadfast in his belief. As the match approaches, Karen picks up Antonio and the grandfather, dropping them at the arena. They secure some of the last seats as the show begins. The Northern Tough Ones, a team consisting of Super Demon and Tequila Joe, are the first to enter the ring, exuding confidence. Then come Escargot Man and his partner, Silver Eagle, fighting under the flamboyant team name Kiss Me a Lot. Silver Eagle starts the match with dazzling moves, but his momentum falters when the Northern Tough Ones team up against him. They mockingly gesture for Escargot Man to join the fight, but he holds back, watching intently. Silver Eagle cleverly outmaneuvers his opponents, causing them to collide into each other and buying himself an escape. When Escargot Man finally steps in, he is quickly overpowered. The audience gasps as a chair is raised to strike him, until something unexpected happens. Back in the mysterious room, the man, distracted and curious, presses one of the member buttons. To his surprise, Escargot Man suddenly extends his neck, knocking out both opponents with a powerful headbutt. The man stares at the button, fascinated, and presses it again. Chaos ensues. Escargot Man now knocks out his own partner, the referee Antonio, and even the match bell. Confused by the randomness of it all, the man experiments with other buttons. One button triggers a metal singer in Los Angeles to breathe fire over a stunned audience. Another disrupts a magician in Russia, causing his disappearing assistant to remain awkwardly visible. Yet another button makes a man in China bark uncontrollably at his dogs. Frustration builds as the man presses button after button, searching for meaning. Just as he's about to give up, a soft light catches his eye. Looking up, he realizes this room is different. There's no ceiling above. Angels fly gracefully, their forms glowing against the infinite void. Determined to reach them, the man devises a new plan. He will climb the walls, using the buttons as footholds and handholds. The climb is an awe-inspiring journey. Every button he touches triggers an event on Earth. Flowers bloom in barren deserts, storms erupt over quiet seas, and elephants collapse in dense jungles. As he ascends higher, the effects become more intricate and profound. Toasters spark to life in kitchens, astronauts take their first steps on the moon, and humanity's greatest achievements unfold in real time. The farther he climbs, the more connected he feels to the world below. By the time he reaches the top, the transformation is complete. His hair and beard have grown long, his appearance radiating wisdom. He no longer clings to the walls, Instead, he floats effortlessly like the angels above. With the knowledge gained from his trials, the man embraces his new role as God, no longer pressing buttons at random, but choosing humanity's greatest moments, with intention and care. When his work is done, the walls around him dissolve into soft feathers, and a glowing portal materializes. Without hesitation, the man steps through and enters the final room. The walls are adorned with the continents of Earth, and at the center stands an enormous member-like button. The man approaches it, understanding he has reached the future phase. As his hand hovers over the button, the screen fades to white, leaving his ultimate decision shrouded in mystery.